Alright everyone, I thought I'd open up today with a short refutation of one concept that I'm seeing circulated around by people within the lamestream, basically, let's face it. What they're saying, essentially, they're hoping to weaponize corporations, which is what big tech firms are. Like YouTube, it's a corporation. It's meant to make a profit, or in the case of Google, to help with other parts of Google that are profitable to increase their profit margin while running itself apparently deeply in the red on a year-to-year basis. Facebook is a corporation. Twitter is a corporation. They're all corporations. They exist for one basic reason, to make money. Paired with that is power, but money and power basically, they're meshed together. Why would you want money? It's to be able to have, the personal liberty and be able to do what you want to do, and also potentially have power over others. Power over your own situation, and in excess, power over others' situations. Why would you want power? Part of that is because then you can have wealth. You can have all the things that come with power. There's no other real reason to want to exercise power. You're getting something that you want from it. It's literally just to put yourself upon the world, upon some situation, and extract what is desired out of it. To be able to do that is power. This is why corporations exist. They need to be able to make ends meet, otherwise they wouldn't exist for very long. When you have a group that continuously has poor business practices and doesn't run a profit, unless it's being propped up by some parent company that's doing it as a pet project, or it's getting subsidized by a government or fundraisers or something, it goes under. So corporations should not, number one, in my opinion at least, number two, cannot actually engage in any form of benevolence. Companies, when empowered to suppress it all, are going to do so predominantly based on what is profitable for their various platforms. In the case of YouTube, thus, they're less worried about cutting somebody loose if they don't have any subscribers than somebody who has a substantial audience, because it's bad PR that trickles down to their total audience retention. That person potentially works for a competitor, could cause a problem, and a million other problems as well. You diminish your own brand. When your brand specifically is related to, hey, our platform is essentially large numbers of people, each doing very small components of the total site's core. YouTube, it's built by hundreds of millions of people making billions of videos. Twitter is compiled together from hundreds of millions of people tweeting. Facebook is built from, 500 million or so, they say at least, profiles, a dwindling number now, but still gargantuan in size. Amazon, it's sellers that are selling on site. eBay would work the same way, individuals selling stuff. And the site basically is hosting and amalgamating and allowing searchable results on all of these things. When you have a site like that, and you have feigned benevolence, what you actually have is a situation where some individuals are seeking to abuse others. Now, this is nothing more than an extension, a more officiated, money-centric extension of behavior that was already on YouTube to begin with. When we see the YouTube purge stuff right now, Sargon got locked out of his account. He thinks it has something to do with his copyright spat with Destiny some time ago. You have people getting banned for mentioning Voldemort, essentially. You have people, getting struck down all the time as part of this mass purge. Now, a lot of them have already been reinstated or had strikes removed. It may be that YouTube, it was a mistake. It's just a prank, bro. That was basically the explanation used. Okay, let's assume that it was. It doesn't really matter. The basic phenomenon is nothing more than an extension of a pre-existent condition, which was people on YouTube in competition for viewership and time and in every other way would attempt to abuse one another in much the same way. False flagging raids, trolling, all sorts of things to disrupt one another's activities. Now, YouTube disincentivized that particular kind of behavior some time ago when it created the modern verification and partnership sort of stuff that it has. If a person is verified on YouTube, they are given the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't matter how many regular users try to raid their material. Could be 1,000 people. It's not really going to make any difference unless there's something actually flaggable, because it will be manually reviewed. For everybody else, it's sort of still the bad old system, so I feel sorry for people that are gaining in popularity and they hit 80K or something and then they just get struck right off the platform. That must really suck. In all honesty, it'd be probably the worst feeling for someone who's really into YouTube. You got similar things in place on other sites as well. The thing is, though, it was already happening. What we have now, though, is a situation where people believe that these corporations engaging in that same behavior that was notably corrupted, it was specifically for corrupt purposes when it was taking place decentralized user to decentralized user, or small unofficial group with no actual platform-wide official power versus another or an individual or whatever. When it was like that, people are like, well, it's abusing the flagging function. It's abusing the reporting system. YouTube needs to stop it. YouTube says, oh yeah, you're right, this is a problem. We're going to clamp down on this for the benefit at least of major users and brands. Now you've got YouTube itself in partnership with NGOs that it has given all sorts of special statuses to, doing the same thing. Do you not think, is it not strange to think that a small group or private individual, when they're engaging in that kind of behavior, and they're generally being corrupt in so doing, is it not strange to suggest that some other group, is magically trustworthy and should have that same ability and on steroids because it's like trusted flagging? I think that there is no benevolence in any of these groups that are partnering with YouTube for their flagging purposes. They are simply seeking to suppress material that they happen to disagree with. That is the truth. Now, you can slap the word NGO on them and say, well, we believe we're the Anti-Defamation League. We don't want defamation. We believe people should be tolerant and not be hateful. And say, okay, that's very family-friendly sounding now, isn't it? Well, so is Patriot Act. You see, of course, on the ground, pragmatically speaking, there's a different reality as opposed to maybe the manufactured label, the appearance on the surface of an NGO or a group of moderators. Some group of random admins or mods on some sites says, well, we're removing such and such material and it's for benevolent purposes. Ultimately, all it is censorship. Really, what it boils down to is it is just censorship. It's not save the children. It's not improve the platform. It's not prevent hate. It's simply censor. Censor opinions we consider offensive, harmful. They're not criminal. There's nothing illegal about the material. There's nothing that within the context of the United States, which is where the laws apply. I'm talking about a U.S. firm, Google or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, Amazon. These are U.S. firms. There's nothing that you're talking about that's against U.S. law. There is stuff that's against U.S. law on the platform. Look, there are channels that are tolerated, partnered channels, verified channels right now on YouTube that only exist to show, hey, here's ketamine, here's me smoking ketamine and pretending to be scientific about what actually happens. I think it's a Dutch channel, I can't remember the name of it, and there are like 4 or 5 people there. It's very professionally produced. They'd use drugs on their channel, and they're like, oh, it lasts this long, here's the effects, here's how I feel, this is what it looks like, this is a brief history of the substance. Now, it's informative, but doing those substances is against U.S. law. That stuff remains on YouTube. It's not in limited state. It's just restricted. It's 18 plus. You have to log into an account to watch it. Other than that, it's perfectly acceptable. You can rate it. You can share it out. You can say, wow, this is pretty cool. You convinced me I should do drugs, basically. Now, I don't have a problem with that myself, but it is illegal under U.S. law. How then is it justifiable? How is it benevolent? If that material is on YouTube, largely unperturbed, fully accessible, as long as you log in, but somebody can't have an opinion that some NGO finds to be harmful or offensive or intolerant, that becomes a problem. That, even though it's not even technically against TOS in some forms, is why limited state exists for that gray area. Certainly not against U.S. law. Why is it that stuff should be removed and somebody's livelihood or brand potentially destroyed or damaged? It doesn't make any sense, and it's not benevolent. It's simply censorship. Saying, well, this material can't be on the platform, if it's criminal, yeah, that's one thing. That's not censorship. Someone's credibly threatening other people or continually harassing another user. But that's always been banned on YouTube. You don't need an NGO to staff these things. It would have been so much simpler. Here's what I think with these firms. It would be so much simpler to simply slim down the amount of things that can be flagged for and get you kicked off the platform. Make it clean cut, black and white, whether it is or is not against the rule. No half-assed limited state nonsense. Oh, it's not against our TOS, but we don't like it, so we're going to limit it anyway, which makes no sense. It's just vagary. What you call the ability of discernment. What you call having some sense of discretion in applying these rules, I call being vague, being confusing. Not good for a brand. It's better to be draconian than to be vague, arguably. Now, what they should have done is just cut down the number of things that could be flagged for. Like drug use at this point, it's obviously tolerated. Why does the category exist? Spam and misleading, well, yeah, as far as metadata goes, is it really that much of a problem? Or is it primarily about, oh yeah, this bot account spits out new videos every 5 seconds with random search terms and clogs up the platform. Oh yeah, and there are about 1 million of these bot accounts on YouTube at any given time. I would say that's a problem. And if it's criminal, it's a problem. But who cares if there's like fighting or war footage or something? Like, who cares? So sometimes it's from the mainstream media. What I would say is that you cannot count on a corporate firm to be benevolent. It will only think of money. These NGOs will only think of money or power. And they go hand in hand when they're trying to suppress certain views. They don't want them to stop existing. Then trust me, groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center would not like a world in which there was no hate and intolerance because they wouldn't be able to exist, now would they? It's sort of like a government. A government needs problems in order to justify its own existence. It can't have total peace. You can't justify taxation if people take care of things themselves, so you try to disincentivize it. You try to have at least a low rumbling level of problems. You try to keep a little bit of a problem going at any given time. When problems are eliminated, like when the bad old days of flagging raids sort of passed, and you don't have any copyright problems or anything. In YouTube, for a few years there, was very, very peaceful. It was very prosperous. It was a golden age of YouTube. We're talking 2013 through 2016. Golden age of YouTube. Everything's churning along fine. There aren't any problems on the platform. Oh shit, it's going to get boring. We've got to do something. Something has to be nitpicked about. We have to find something that concerns us. It's pearl clutching. It's just moralism. These NGOs are the same thing. They are no different than a group of housewives sitting on the street corner gossiping about their neighbors. That's the truth. And they exist to make money, and the only way they can do that is to have problems to talk about. Since there is no actual systemic problem of hate or intolerance on YouTube or any of these other sites, and most people talking badly about one another are just trolling, and it's just, literally locker room talk anyway. It's not exactly evidence of an army of skinheads. Because of that fact, they have to pretend that that's not true and say, oh no, it's actually a prevalent thing. It's really, really prevalent. And then they'll come out and they'll lean on CNN and these other groups to further abuse any site that doesn't kowtow to them. And then they'll use their reporting capability to convince Ma and Pa Middle America that there are 1 million Nazis on YouTube or that Twitter's overrun by skinheads. It's not actually the case. But they have to justify their own actions on these sites. They know that the user base is large and gets angry easily. So they have to even try to convince them. I think so far they've been largely unsuccessful, which is a good thing. But no, there shouldn't be trusted flaggers. If they are, they should be taken from the rank and file users on YouTube who have been on the platform for years and years. Like people who have, this person's been on the platform for 6-7 years, never got a strike. Yeah, I think we can probably trust their judgment. Those are the people who you should trust in that sense. Of course, you should still collate the reports that they're getting. Otherwise you still get a situation where the ability might be misused. At the very least, there shouldn't be such a thing as a strike you can't appeal. It seems that some people have had problems with that during the latest fiasco on YouTube with censorship. Certainly on Twitter, you can't appeal bullshit. Doesn't matter who you are unless you're Jimmy Kimmel or something. You can't appeal anything. You can just get kicked off the platform, even if it's not something you did on Twitter. It turns out, he's insulted somebody on Facebook. Well, we better get rid of their account. We don't want to, contribute to hate-filled people, says Jack at Twitter. It's kind of ridiculous. That's about all.